What's up, congratulators? It's rehab time. Yep. We're doing a book review today, The Greatest You. It's written by Trent Shelton. He's a former NFL wide receiver turned motivational speaker. And he has a crazy, awesome, totally insane story. He helps you to face your reality, or face reality, to release negativity, and to live out your purpose. You know, he didn't always want to be a motivational speaker. He used to want to be a NFL football player, and like most of us, we grow up with a big dream, whether to have a certain career, maybe a fireman, or you know, there's a certain woman of your dreams that you want to pursue, a dream woman, and you come up short, you come empty. You know, the expression is that you climb the highest mountain, and then you realize you're on the wrong mountain, right? And so he did that. His whole life was pent up on this identity of being a football player, and for whatever series of events, he wasn't finally getting that final breakthrough to getting like a full-time starting position. It all came crashing down, and he was dealing with a lot of that stuff and a lot of those struggles. He also had a child out of wedlock, and being a Christian, you know, that affected him. He later went on to marry that woman. And they're happily married now. They're expecting a child. So I wish you and your wife, Trent, if you guys are watching, safe delivery. And so he didn't want to be a wide receiver. He became a motivational speaker in that lapse. And it's a beautiful thing because, like it said, if you lose your dream, but you find your destiny. And he found what his true purpose was. And so all his trials and tribulations that he used was transformed and used for something good, just like God seems to do with our rags, our dirty rags. But whether you want to be, you know, a kid forever or a wide receiver, and you're on the other side, either you've gone through, you know, if you have this big dream of yours and you want to be something, sometimes, you know, because everybody tells you, you know, go after what you want, pursue what you're passionate about, pursue your dream, and like have no plan B. It's all plan A. You focus on your dream, your goal, and what you want, and sometimes you get left empty-handed, and it's difficult because we have this change and we have this transformation from when we're children to when we're adults. There's a transformation that takes place, not just a physical change like your puberty, but there's a mental change. And sometimes some kids are lucky enough or blessed enough that whatever they wanted to be when they were 4 years old, like that's what their destiny was, and that's what they became. You know, there's a story that Barack Obama knew he was going to be a president of the United States when he was in elementary school, and he ended up being that. And a lot of kids just pick kind of something what's cool, and they stick to it because they have no other identity. And then we get lost because it's not what God really wanted for our lives. So he shows, his book is is basically a map of that, and of his transformation from having a big dream and being transformed into his reality, into his destiny. Because at the end of the day, life wants you, and it wants your greatest you. But before we get into some of the books, some of the content of it, and I don't want to give too much of away because I've already, shared some of his bio, but I don't want to spoil anything. As Trent Shelton, he's a real casual, normal kind of guy, but he's also very purpose-driven, and he's one of the fastest growing motivational speakers on social media. I'll link his channel in the description down below. I started following him, and I hope to get to meet him personally one day. Personally get to be his buddy or something. There's just a lot of wealth that he has to share, and his book is great. He wrote it very normal, casual, like for an average like reading level, but it's super great and rich, and it reads, it's intense and it's fast. You don't want to rush through it, but it is a dramatic book because it goes through not only his story but other stories of people that he's gotten to affect, and they share their stories back with him. So it's really truly phenomenal. And of course, I definitely read the book again, and I highly recommend it. So it gets a thumbs up from me. I kind of found him because I'm a big follower of Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. And Dean Graziosi talks about, kind of a side tangent here, that he has this mastermind group and he hangs out with all his buddies. And I know that he hangs out with a couple other guys, and Trent came up, and I noticed that, I I read regularly, and I saw that his book was coming out, so I picked up my copy at the local library, and I loved it. So like I'm a new big fan, and I'm eager to follow his work and get to know him better, as I mentioned, just before right now. The point that I do kind of want to make about the content of the book, it's not like some super eggy, rocket science about the book. It's about a real man with a real heart, living out, real life. So the book it's not overly anecdotal. It's not about trying to sound fancy with a bunch of bumper stickers, but it's how I kind of put it is like it's conventional wisdom packaged for today's culture. And that's what I really loved about it, and that's what makes him really relatable. He doesn't seem like he's somebody out there on the stage. He just seems like a friend you've always had. So although his book is like super great from start to finish, from cover to cover, first page to the last, I did pull away three nuggets, three takeaways from the book. And I wasn't reading the book necessarily to do a book review, but here I am, and I'm sharing what I found with it because I felt that it was just so awesome. But one of the things he talks about, the first thing that struck me, and there's much more than these three. It's kind of, I don't even know if I'm doing the book justice. So you have to, read it for yourself. But one of the things that he talks about, and he talks also about in his social media, so it's not necessarily exclusive, but it is a main point, is when people talk about finding their purpose. And, it's like you got to find your purpose in life, right? Because that's really important. So you can either proclaim it, you can just state what it is. Like if the purpose of your life is to be happy, healthy, and grateful, to delight in the Lord and to share the gospel with others. If it's something like that, it's super great, but super simple, or not even necessary that it has to be, super excellent like that. Basically what he's saying is, you keep looking for your purpose, and you're not going to find purpose in other people. You're going to find purpose in, you can find validation that you're on the right track with other people, but at the end of the day, like, you are purpose. You would say, I am purpose. When I go out, I bring the fun, I bring the joy, and I live out my purpose. All the good things that I'm capable of and that are within me, I get to share those with the world. So it doesn't come from a platform. It isn't like YouTube is my purpose, or social media is my purpose, or my job or my position, or necessarily even my family or my relatives. My purpose is me sharing my gifts with the world, my love with the world. And what is your gift? It's to love, right? And how I express it, it's to love with freedom. And everyone's, the inside is always going to be the same. Our purpose is always going to be the same. It's something that we can feel juiced about. Our packaging might be different, right? You might have a badge, or you might have a certain hat that you wear that describes your title or whatnot: father, mother, cook, chef, manager. Those things are just the outside package of what the inner package is, and that's just to be a light of the world and to bring love to the people around you. So that was a huge big takeaway, is that you are purpose, that we are purpose. So the second takeaway that I got was, and again, like I said, this is just common sense stuff, but it's packaged for today's culture, is that even though you might have some bad chapters in your life, that doesn't mean that you can't have a happy ending, right? That your life's not over. At least it's not over yet. You're still living, you're still breathing, and you still have a chance at life, this opportunity right now in this moment, to experience something magical, something miraculous. And every moment that you have, right, it shouldn't be taken for granted. His mother, on a side note, she's battling cancer. She's got through it once, and then she has it again, so I know she's getting treatment for that. So my thoughts and prayers are out to her. God moves in miraculous ways when you speak to him and you ask him, and you're carrying out his will. So I would ask you to join me in help moving those mountains and to cast out that spirit of infirmity, that spirit of cancer, from her body, away from her body, so she could be healed and carry out, her purpose in life, that God has, designed and destined her for. And it's an amazing thing for a man like this. He's a motivational speaker. You get to see how normal and how human they are, because they're still going through all these things too. They're just as challenged as you are. And some things they've achieved success because of the mindsets that they developed, a championship mindset. That's a chapter in his book. But as all these things are going around you, they're all going around us too. We all have our own cross to carry, our own cross to bear. They're unique, but they're also very universal, and they parallel each other. And that's why we're able to relate, because I might not have gone through the exact kind of pain you've gone through or going through, but if I have already, then of course, like in terms of, I've had my extreme pains too, and so therefore we can relate and we can have something in common. If I haven't gone through a pain, or you haven't gone through a pain, well, one of us are about to, because that's just part of becoming our fullest self, becoming our greatest version, right? Becoming the greatest you. And as he mentioned before, pain produces power. Your power comes from pain, and you can't have the pleasures in life without the pain, the deepest painful experiences. So, when you're going through them, knowing that they can serve a higher purpose eventually, if you don't quit, of course, if you don't give up. So, yeah, not all bad chapters, bad chapters don't lead to a happy ending. You can still have a happy ending with them. And to kind of give yourself, if you're in the most challenged part of your life, if you're in a bad chapter right now, so if you've been through a bad chapter, you can get through a bad chapter. But if this is your first bad chapter of your life, or it seems like you've always started from your introduction was a bad chapter, and you've had nothing but bad chapters, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, or that there could be a happy ending for you. Of course, you'll never know if you give up, and not giving up will never go in vain. And if you pursue enough, there is something to be learned. There will be a shift you make. I can promise you that. In Jesus' name, I can promise you those things. So don't give up, and you have to be able to use some observation when it comes to having a bad chapter, that you can see it objectively and set it apart. And that's why they say give your problems to God. Just give it away, give it up, and step aside from it. They're still your problems, they're still your challenges. You still have to tackle them, because that's going to be somewhere some of your greatest your gift is going to come from. It's going to be extracted out of that experience. So that was another thing that I pulled away from it, the bad chapters. The third thing, as I'm looking at my notes right now, is the environment thing. So, Tupac gave a great quote. He's like, or just a great description. He might have gotten it from someone else, but he really kind of made it popular with certain groups, and especially the hip hop culture. And it talks about the rose that grew from the concrete, right? When you see a rose that is in the middle of the sidewalk, and a rose that grew from the middle of the concrete, like in the sidewalk, it's going to be probably pretty beat up, because it went through a lot to get there. But you don't say, oh, look at that ugly flower, look at that ugly rose. You're like, wow, that took a lot of tenacity for that rose to grow up like that. And that's even more beautiful than a perfect, rose bush or something like that, because the character that it took for that rose to grow. But in society, so that's how I kind of was seeing things a lot. So this was a shift for me, where I had to see it's not always that way, because I didn't want to always give credit to the environment. I didn't want to blame the environment. But sometimes that has something to do with it. And especially as a self-improvement trainer and transforming my life, I realized that there is something to the environment. And so if you get a flower, and all a flower is going to do what a flower does. If you put it in in a certain environment where it has no sunlight, you don't blame the flower. Why didn't you grow? Why didn't you grow? Well, because it has no sun. The environment is not conducive for the flowers to grow. So you got to put it where there's sun, and it can have water and good soil, so that it can flourish. And so this is how example that in its appropriate context to use for you, and even for myself, is that if you're in a certain environment, whether it could be family, blood relatives, or it can be your coworkers, or your classmates, your teachers, or wherever you're at, that's your environment. But you can mentally, psychologically begin to associate with a better environment, with better people, through better friends. Reading a book like this motivational book that Trent Shelton wrote, that gives me a connection, insight into another person. It's more than just like a Facebook scroll where you're reading a quick little thing, and they make like a short burst pop of motivation. But when you read a book, you're allowed to go through it methodically and just really absorb and get this person's full perspective on a certain issue or concept. And you're allowed to absorb it, and it's just like having a conversation with that person, which we're so conversation like starved in our society, because we just want that quick, 140 characters or less, right? Like on Twitter. So where I'm going with that is, begin to associate yourself with positive people, motivational people, even if they're not in your direct, proximity, but then you get to see yourself as one of them. And when you set your sights on something higher, you begin to float to the top and rise to the top. Like they say, the cream always rises, but you got to know that you are special and you have that cream, that uniqueness inside of you to rise and fly with the eagles and not always be scratching with the turkeys. But it's an insight that you have to take advantage of. So those are some three big concepts I took away. And again, there's so much more, but I don't want to spoil the book too much, because that man put a lot of hard work into that book, and you deserve it to be well read with it, and not just take a clip notes version. So the biggest takeaway for me, and this was the biggest thing, and I don't know if I can necessarily credit the book itself for this, but it was kind of coincidental that I'm reading through the book, and I was struggling with something. No, I wouldn't say struggling with something, but it's like if you have a pebble in your shoe, right? The old example where if you have a pebble in your shoe and you walk across the room, no big deal. But if you have that pebble in your shoe and you're going to run a marathon, eventually that grinding on your shoe, it's going to make your foot raw. It's going to bother you, and you're going to be in agony by the end of the race. And so I had something that I wasn't sure if I should really share or not. We practice transparency, my wife and I, and it just there was never really a super opportunity. I never created the opportunity because I didn't think it was that valuable. But it finally came to me, and I was like, you know what? I should share this. I want to share this with her. And when I did, it really was magical, and it transformed our relationship, because now, not that I was hiding anything, but I have nothing to hide, and I feel completely clear. And I feel that my relationship with my wife has the most rock solid foundation that it's ever had. And it was a beautiful moment that we had. And of course, we'll keep that to ourselves, what it is, because it's just not that big of a deal. But that book somehow elicited that. And so I give credit. Thank you, Mr. Shelton, Trent, for that breakthrough and clarity in my life. And with my relationship, my spouse, it's the closest thing next to me, she's the most important person next to me in my life, next to Jesus. So thank you, and God bless you. God bless your mom, your wife, and your family. And to all you congratulators out there, much respect to this man, and I highly recommend the book. I hope you get it soon and read it. And if you do, or you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below in the comment section. God bless you all, and until the next video, next time, love with freedom. Thank you very much. Peace.